Well, welcome everyone. It's 5:03 for the minutes, Steve, and we have a couple of bits of administrative business, including approval of minutes. But before that, I would just love to welcome Mary Hartman to the group, our new liaison from the select board.
Thank you.
Hi, Mary.
Hi. I'm so glad I took that tour. Carlene, I'm so glad you took the time to give me the private tour.
Oh, good.
That was great. So, yeah. So I've been to the place.
Right. I'm so glad. And we know that you, we know that you're, you know, it's important to you to study things and understand them from the inside out. And we're grateful. We're grateful to you for that. Mary, do you know everyone on the committee? Do you know all of the members?
I know of them from town, except I don't know Harry. I've seen Steve and Sue in town because they're active in town, but I don't. Harry, I'm glad to meet you. Yeah, I live in West Concord. The
best part of Concord.
It is. It's the edgy place.
Mary is a resident of Concord Green, Harry. And Harry, why don't you just explain quickly what you do so Mary has a frame of reference?
Yeah, so I've been in since late 90s in West Concord. 3 kids, went through the public schools. I have a business right above the Neshoba Bakery, and went in on the purchase of the property here, 152 Com Ave, and it started a little ConcordConserves.org, which was active for like 10 years from 2007 to 2017. We're just starting to get that active again. Yeah, otherwise, you'll see me around West Concord probably now. We'll
great, good. I will say hello.
Yeah.
And Mary, you might know Steve from, I don't know if he was on the WCAC when you.
Oh, I was.
Way a long time ago. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And Sue Felshen is a long time also West Concord resident and super volunteer who belongs to a lot of sorts of things. And I think you know her from a different perspective from some of your work Monday night, because I think Sue was just advanced to be a member of the planning board. Is that right, Sue?
Actually, I noticed the select board discuss it, but I never quite noticed if they voted on my nomination. Maybe it was on the consent agenda.
One night is the nomination, and then the next week is usually the appointment.
Oh, the nomination doesn't call for a vote. Okay,
right,
just a discussion.
Right. Yeah.
Got it. Sure. Yeah, so glutton for punishment, apparently.
Which will bring us to the issue of replacing Sue, because as you all know, you can only sit on one appointed committee at a time in Concord. And because neither is advisory, then we need to find another person to replace Sue. Not that you would ever be replaceable, Sue.
Oh, totally.
So we'll get that onto that into the agenda just in a bit. Let's first, Sue put forth 2 sets of minutes, expertly done as usual. So if there is no discussion on the minutes, I would love.
There is discussion on the minutes. I would like to draw your attention to the place in the minutes of March, where under planning for upcoming site walk on Saturday, March 24th, it has this little comment where someone please help out the clerk. What exactly was flagged? My notes didn't say, I can't remember. And we can't submit the minutes as is, we have to amend them.
Sue, I'm trying to pull that up.
Okay, should I share screen? Would that help?
Yes, let me make that possible. And actually, I like to show the agenda at the top of the meeting and neglected to do that. So let me just do that so it's on the record and everyone can see that. Discussion and approval of minutes, discussion of next steps, recruitment of a new member to replace Sue Felshen, public comment, and adjourn. Let me stop share and let me make it possible for you to share, and you should be able to now, Sue.
Okay, so right here where I have highlighted, we're talking about what we were going to do for the site walk, and Bill Murray had something flagged for us, and I can't remember whether it was the 50-foot wetlands border or the proposed path or what.
It was the path and the the 2, what are we calling them? The 2 gathering
overlooks,
the 2 overlooks.
including 2 overlooks. Okay.
And the path all the way around, the entire path was flagged. From the meadow
The
over.
entire site, including 2 overlooks. Okay, so I'll just save that. And unless there's further discussion.
No, sorry, Sue, I didn't even realize that you had that question there. I would have answered it in advance of this. So no, I think, does anybody else have any questions or comments or concerns about the minutes? No. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Can I second? I'm not sure if the chair can second, but I think so. I think the chair can second. So second, all in favor, aye for me, Harry?
Aye.
Sue says aye.
Aye.
And
I
Steve?
say aye.
Great. So
Yeah.
unanimous. Again, we're missing Krista. But otherwise, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for taking those, Sue. No one will ever replace you for minute taking. You're extraordinary at it and we appreciate it.
Yes.
No worries. Whoever takes over should keep in mind that the town has been asking committees to name their minutes in the file format I've been using, which
Yes,
is, yeah, year,
sure
month,
that's done.
day, minutes,
Yes.
etc. Cool. Okay.
I'll make sure that's done. I know that we've been doing that consistently, but you're right. The next clerk needs to know that that's the case. Okay. Discussion of next steps. So I think you all know by now, and I think all of us were there. Maybe I think Harry had a conflict, but town meeting voted unanimously to support CPC. So that means we can move forward $250,000, which is wonderful. And I think that's pretty much a vote of confidence for moving forward. So there are a couple of things that I think we need to talk about right out of the gate. One is something that I've been sort of going back and forth with Harry, and I just haven't been able to produce what I wanted to for him. But I think we should write a letter to the foundation that supports or educates about Malcolm X, Malcolm Little, Malcolm X, to talk to them about what our plans are and see if we can solicit both their support for doing some sort of interpretive panel that references Malcolm X, but perhaps also ask for some fundraising for that. Harry, do you want to add to that at all? Do you want to, did I capture that correctly?
Yeah, I think it's about a year ago, I reached out to Rodney Collins, who's Malcolm X's nephew, and he said that he would support this initiative and that we just needed to write a letter to their board, and then they'll, that would just be the process, and then they will write a letter. I think it's really just kind of formality, but I think it's really awesome just to have some sort of, approval here, support from, from the closest source of Malcolm X. And my sense is they're going to have very limited funds, but they could be helpful in fundraising. So like if we did an event or something, and if Rodney wanted to participate in that event, and just on a side note, Rodney talks quite a while and about the importance of education and how important education was to Malcolm X's life. And that really started, well, no, he'd done very well in school previous to that, but he had started a new form of education when he was at Concord Reformatory. And so there's some interesting story angles with it that could be used for fundraising. I think since he is such a magnetic personality and such a visual icon of the civil rights movement, if there was something even a little bit more of kind of like a relief of Malcolm X, like a bronze relief or something that was very kind of permanent, that could be installed. I think that could be, really powerful. That is more kind of inexpensive than an interpretive panel, but that could be really awesome, I think.
Yeah, and that should go. So, and I agree. And I think, so there's a lot to do in terms of figuring out, we don't have to plot it all out today, but I think we should brainstorm a little bit today and then figure out how we want to move forward. There's a lot to do in terms of figuring out next steps. I didn't even invite Bill to this meeting because I just sort of wanted to talk a little bit about how we might want to sort of gather our ducks in a row for figuring out how to do the research, the historic research for some of the interpretive panels. That's one side of it. The other side is thinking about the plants and, you know, and like make a sort of a master list of the sorts of plants that we could, should, would put in there. Again, we're not anywhere near choosing those plants, but I think we should start to create a master list of what those plants would be. And, you know, then the third sort of pathway forward is just getting a handle on what's going on with the invasives. And I'm not sure any of us and the committee has the expertise to put that together. That's really the professionals who do that. That's what Bill, I think, has to tell us what's going to happen and how that's all going to unfold. So though I think we need to keep our, you know, tabs on that and work on that. I don't know if we're going to be leading the effort necessarily to remove the invasives. But those are the sort of three areas that I see us working in over the next year, figuring out what's happening with the invasives and just making sure it's all moving forward. Figuring out where we're going to go in terms of the interpretive panels and what the research is and what the artifacts are that we might start to gather, et cetera. And then figuring out what the plantings are, both on the meadow side, which is every single thing has to be planted over there. And then on the parkland side, which is more screening stuff, filling in some gaps, but there's already so much rich vegetation over there. And none of that I don't think can happen until all of the invasives are out. So we'd have to wait on that part anyway. Are those are the three areas that I'm thinking of to sort of move forward? Do other people have any thoughts? I see Marcia just unmuted herself.
No, I've been unmuted. I think those are, it would be really good to begin that research. It's going to be a while before we can actually do anything because it's all dependent on the Christopher Heights project going forward. But you're absolutely right. If we could begin to identify those plants and do the research and just begin mocking up what those panels might look like,
right,
would be very valuable.
Yep. And then also some of the other things, I guess, Marshall, things like, oh, I'm sorry, Harry, I'll just finish this thought and then I'll be quiet. But what about the other things? I don't know what they're called in the plan, but things like benches and that, what about the sort of the non-plant stuff that's going to go into the area? Should we start figuring out those sorts of things and pulling in pictures and that, or is that really more down the line and we don't need to do that now?
I think early on you had some ideas about benches, about pavement textures, about perhaps even sculptural pieces. And it might be good to try to identify what it is you're trying to achieve. Is it going to be organic? Is it going to be more structured? Is it modern? Is it classic?
Yeah.
Just what is the feel and character that you want to try to imbue in that space with the materials that are not native or natural?
What's the word for that category of stuff? You just said materials that are not native or natural. What?
Well, it's hardscape sometimes,
Hardscape,
or
that's it.
Maybe fixtures.
Okay. Hardscape and fixtures. Thanks, both. Hardscape and fixtures. I was struggling for the language. Harry.
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, big picture, and I feel so ignorant that with the town meeting, I wasn't really fully aware what's going on, but I understand that a little bit more now that these funds were approved. But so is it still dependent on Grantham going forward? There's a dependency here that still needs to happen? If you just describe that a little bit, or
Go ahead,
yeah,
Marcia.
yes, it is entirely dependent on Grantham, because if they for some reason are unable to fund construction, it may mean that Concord Housing Development Corporation will have to redesign or renegotiate with a new developer or seek new plans for something. And we don't know what that would look like. The entire site is under the purview of the Concord Housing Development Corporation. What you've been working on is the excess land above and beyond what is needed for Christopher Heights. So you won't be able to move forward until we know what's going on with that other housing project.
Steve and then Mary.
Just a comment. I'm not really feeling very optimistic about this developer, just my sense. There's not too much indication that things are really happening. So just my 2 cents.
It's all about the funding and the cost of materials. They've
been crying poverty since before they even started. They've been having their hand out looking for money, and I just don't have a good feeling about this at all.
Well, I don't have a good feeling about it just because of the way the state of the economy is going. They've gone above and beyond. Again, people don't know what has been going on behind the scenes, and to judge without that information is really unfair to grant them.
Do you feel that they will, that we're gonna, I mean, Liz is always very positive. I've been pressing her on this for 6 months, and she always is very positive that she feels like they're gonna be successful in the end. Do you want to share your opinion on that, Marcia, or does it just not make sense for you to do that?
I remain hopeful. They have put their own, they've put their own buildings on the line. They have put the money, any proceeds, they have postponed until after everything is done. It's just, they are struggling to try to figure out how to close the gap, and the gap keeps increasing every month because of the cost of materials.
Mm-hmm. Liz told me, Steve, that they put up 3 other of their properties as collateral for the building of this property. So, you know, I think that they're trying to do a lot. It's just a matter of whether it's going to be able to, they can reconcile the very hostile situation that we're in terms of building materials and you know, economic environment. But I do think that they're trying hard. I'm just not sure how successful they'll be.
I'm less forgiving. I just have to say the developer takes a risk, and it's part of the risk of business.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Is there a timetable? Is there a time frame that they have to
Good question.
get their financing together, or they move on, or is that an open?
Yep.
Right now, it is open. They can come back and request an extension on the comprehensive permit. They can request an extension on the wetlands permitting. And at some point they'll have to say yes or no, but it's not up to the town to pull the plug. It's up to them.
Mary, did you want to comment? Did you want to add?
Actually, Harry asked pretty much my question, if we've thought of deadlines. And so, Marcia, when you mentioned the comprehensive and the wetlands permit, when do they expire? Do you know?
I think they're going to be seeking an extension. I don't know right now. I think they've requested one extension, so it may be for another 2 years. And we were very hopeful that they would pull the building permit this year. But I don't know.
This calendar year or fiscal year?
This calendar year.
Okay, so they have plenty, you know, they have 6 months to still do that, right?
Right.
And then when you pull a building permit, how long do you have, how long is that good for?
Well, the building permit is good for as long as until you get it done, and
Okay.
they want to move as quickly as possible once they get started.
Okay, Sue.
Well, I feel a little silly saying this after the recent discussion, but I just wanted to add one small comment on the preceding one, which is, Carleen, obviously we can't get anything going until Grantham is able to move forward, but I thought we wanted to get the screening plantings in as soon as possible, even before removing all the invasives, to give them time to grow. And since invasives removal will last 3 to 5 years, that would be on your list of timing of plants.
Yeah.
They alone would be quicker, especially the ones between the property and the prison, I think.
But I don't think we can move forward on that until we know that the plans that we laid forth are the plans that are ultimately going to be accepted, because we're not sure Grantham is the one that's actually going to develop this site.
Right, it's completely dependent on when Grantham actually gets its finances in order. I was just commenting on the part about, would we wait on all the plantings until the invasives are gone? Well, maybe
No.
not the screening.
Right.
Start them
I
as soon
agree
as
with you.
possible. Yeah,
I
yeah,
misspoke.
that's all.
Steve. You're
Yeah.
right, because that was what Bill said and also Krista said, that it takes years for those things to take, hold. We just want to be careful not to put anything in the screening section on the meadow side where big trucks are going to be going over routes and things like that, because then we'll be wasting money and putting those things in peril. So we got to figure all that out. But again, I don't think we're equipped to figure that out. That's what the consultants are for and stuff. But you're absolutely right. That is on the top of the list.
Yeah, but
I
it's
think-
also no rush because we're waiting on Grantham.
We're waiting, but I also think that this work is, even if worst case scenario, Grantham isn't the one that moves forward on this, to have these plans and in place, I think, so that we could then hand them over to someone else who might be moving forward. I mean, I don't see how that would be, because there's still 4+ acres in the center for whatever developer to move in and build what they're looking at. And Marcia, we have that 200-foot conservation restriction, or we will. No one would ever be able to go into that that's always going to be open space. Is that right? No one can sneak in there with any development. Is that right?
Once the conservation restriction is in place, but again, that's all dependent on Grantham.
Okay. So we can't even move forward on a conservation restriction through the CHDC.
Correct.
Okay. So, I guess the idea, go ahead, Steve.
When you say it's dependent on Grantham for the CR, Grantham's not the landowner, so they wouldn't issue the CR.
No, it would be the Housing Development Corporation that would,
Right.
that would enter.
So the Housing Development Association would
Yeah.
do the CR with
Yeah.
the town.
But if there's no project, then why should they?
Oh, okay.
They could still have a nice park out of the deal.
No, but Marcia, understanding that even if it's not Grantham, worst case, that eventually is gonna, they wouldn't move forward with that to protect that strip, even because we know it's gonna be affordable assisted or some sort of affordable housing. No, that's not just not the order of how things work.
Correct.
Okay. So I mean, I think, folks, the idea is just to keep going forward, and we know that we have, an absolutely legitimate both plan and reasoning, right, for honoring this place as an historic site and, et cetera. And I think we just continue to go forward, and then if someone else comes in and we start at ground zero, we hand over our plans and our work, and hopefully they can move around that. I mean, it would be hard, I think, for a new group to, not take into consideration that the town has already voted to support this, and we've gone through all of this public comment. I don't know, so we're in a little bit of a tricky situation, but we knew that going in. Does anyone have any comments or worries, questions about that? No. Okay. So if we look at it in terms of 3 or 4 pathways, and I'm looking at my notes to just repeat again what those are, figuring out what some of the plants are, figuring out what the research and interpretive panels would be, and then also dealing with the hardscape and fixtures that will be on site, invasive notwithstanding. I think our next step is to try to sort of divide this a little bit and almost like assign project heads so that people can at least be responsible for thinking about these sort of various subsections of our task list. How does that sound to the group?
Sounds good.
Okay. What sort of timeline do you want to just sort of, and Marcia, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well. I don't know if we need to sort of light our hair on fire to get this stuff like up meetings as much as we were having. Marcia, would it be okay to assign some sort of larger, sort of big picture thinking on these topics and then meet again in a couple of months, or should we just keep it up every month? just because summer's coming and we have some time.
I agree that you have time. I think that the research piece on the interpretive panels will take time.
Okay.
And how they will be designed, it will be important. I don't know if you want to seek outside assistance with designing those panels. Again, it's developing the information you want to convey, and that will take a lot of research. I think the steps that you outlined in the very beginning about finding out from the Malcolm X was it his nephew, you said?
Yeah.
You know, what information that we can provide, what do we have, and do they want to help prepare it? Do they want to put a spin on it? Is there something, you know, I don't know
Yeah.
what kind of if they would even be interested in it, you know.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we can move forward with that. Also, I think the person, so I think, so there's that, and there's the hardscape stuff that I know Harry feels strongly about, and also has the design eye. I'm not going to put all of that on you, Harry, but just to be thinking about it and maybe be a point person to some extent. Sorry, Steve.
Yeah, for my notes, what's the name of the foundation? Did we actually say the name of the foundation that we're talking about?
I don't know what it is off the top of my head. Do you,
But
Harry?
the Malcolm X Foundation, it's
That's the name of the foundation, is Malcolm X.
well, it's a little bit different than that. It's I can give that to you. It's in Roxbury. It was just designated.
Yeah, I'm just writing foundation and I'm realizing I probably should write a name.
It's the Malcolm X House Foundation.
Okay.
It's where he lived and where Rodnell lives in the same house that Malcolm lived in.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
It's I can send you a link right now in the chat if you want to see. Here's chat in this. Let's see, where's chat?
I don't think we have a chat. I'm sorry. The
Okay.
town thing.
It's just it's Malcolm X Foundation is the website.
Okay.
Okay. So here's my thought that, Harry, I'll help you with this, but I would love for you to sort of help take the lead on the hardscape stuff in terms of if we want to do, you know, we talked about that round circular
Mhm.
paver, like just to help envision what some of that could be. And I think we should do what you and I have done previously, is create a Google Drive and just start putting photos in there. And I have a bunch already of some of the things that we could do. This is my thought, and then people.
Marcia has the face of that probably is not allowed.
Oh,
Right. But we could do that on your webpage. Then everybody would have access to it.
Marcia, could we do it and then present and then it becomes public? You can't do work behind the scenes at all, like gathering
Your
information?
group you can do something, Carrie can do something, you can then present it and then you can post it. But
That's what I was,
you can't put it all into one document where you'd see what Harry was putting in.
right,
You can't.
okay. How do committees have a working document then? How do they have
They
like a
don't.
draft document?
Somebody prepares it, sends it out, comments come back to the one individual, and then you put it back out.
So you're
It's
not
a-
allowed to collaborate as a
It's an
subcommittee?
onerous process. Any two of you that meet, it's a subcommittee and you have to post it.
Oh my God.
Remember, any draft document that's presented at a meeting can be listed in the minutes as a document presented at the meeting and can go into the public record. And each individual draft of it can go into the record again and again and again.
Okay.
Well, there is a doc. I mean, I started one, and I mean, I could submit that. It's a Google Doc, and you just keep submitting that. And it has a bunch of information in there already. And you know, if if that works.
But it has to live publicly, you're saying, Marcia.
Well, I mean, this is a public document also. Anyone can access this document.
Anyone?
But it's not, it has to be publicly known to the public as part of the committee's documents. It can't just be if you stumble on it.
Well, how would that exist on, forgive me for not already knowing this, if we were to have like something where we have a repository of ideas, Marcia, on the website, I'd have to give that to Heather, and every time Heather would have to upload?
Yeah, we can do that. I mean, we have that. I took everything that the West Concord Advisory Committee put together, this massive document of all the sidewalks and ideas, and it's an idea board, and it lives on the West Concord Advisory page.
Okay.
So it's really, it would be an item on the left-hand side of the page, and you can click on it and just submit it to Heather, and she would take care of it.
Okay, and that's like the idea, an idea board, so that people looking at that aren't going to be like, I hate this, and then we don't have to say like, this is just an idea board. We didn't choose this.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so that, and so maybe we'll just create that, and then everyone can contribute to that. But Harry, if you could have a special eye to that, because you're the designer in the group and you have very specific ideas of how you want like some of that stuff to look, if you could think that through and add to that, but then we can all add to it. And then for the research, I'll take the lead on that and start creating, because I hooked up with all those historians and everything. So I can start to sort of figure out what sort of language and educational material that we would use for the 3 different types of interpretive panels: wild and scenic, reformatory, and the great encampment.
Right.
So I'll take the lead on that this summer. And then for plants, does anyone, I don't know if that's something I was thinking, I don't know how you feel about that, Steve. I know Krista's into that, but she's very busy and I don't want to speak for her. I'm wondering if
I'm not really very knowledgeable on
Yeah,
plants,
that's
but
fine.
I'm not sure what you would get from me.
That's fine. I'm also wondering if the next person we recruit is that sort of person.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I would have loved to have volunteered for plants, although I would have also loved to. I'm going to put in a plug for ergonomics and affordances when designing the hardscape.
Okay. Okay, that's a good idea. What do you all think about trying to actively recruit someone who's a pollinator type?
I mean, did you say Krista? I mean, do you want to do that?
I don't know how much time Krista, yes, Krista would be great. I'm not sure how much time Krista can give to this. But that's what she does. She says she's a landscape architecture degree. So she would be good with that. She's going to be focusing on the conservation restriction. I mean, she's like a policy person too, you know?
Mhm.
I just
Mary.
Marcia, maybe you can help here. Would Delia know someone in the community that
She
might?
might. Yeah, I think we can certainly ask that
Ask her.
question. Yeah, and we
Yeah.
might even ask Krista. She might have some ideas.
Yeah, I mean, Joan Ferguson
people.
would be the best, but Joan Ferguson has rejected us multiple times because she's so busy. She's so busy.
Right.
But maybe at this phase, she'd like it, you know, maybe this phase, it's something, she didn't want to get into all of the other stuff, but maybe this is something
Right.
she'd like,
Right.
you know? Okay, so let's resolve let's resolve to start looking for images and things like that. And Marcia, is it okay if they send it to me and then I send it to Heather?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, let's resolve to start looking at hardscape sort of things, whether that's no trash cans, but kiosk style, bench style, plinth style, and also
Bike racks.
And are you getting all this, Steve? I should be writing it down. I see you furiously writing. And also pavers.
I just have hardscape sort of things. I didn't make a
Okay.
list.
That's okay. I do think we're going to put something more than stone dust in the metal part. I think we're going to try to do something that's a little bit more artistic, right, Harry?
Yeah, the John Lennon Park in Central Park, imagine.
Right. I'm just writing this down so I don't forget. Bike
Labyrinth.
racks, benches, kiosk. So I put pavers, plinths, bike racks, benches, kiosk. Did I get it all?
etc.
Et cetera, et cetera. So we'll all do that. I'll take the lead on the research and interpretive panels, and I think we should all try to work to recruit someone to replace Sue that might be able to help us with the plant side. And then what sort of schedule do you want to take? Do you want to take a month off? Do you want to meet next month? What, Harry and Steve and Marcia and Mary, like what?
I think we should take, I think seeing just, we have some time here. So we want to keep things going, but let's take some time off would be my vote. Come back later in the summer.
Okay, so no June, but maybe a late July and then start from there. How does that
Yeah.
sound, folks?
Yeah.
And hopefully we can recruit another member by then. That's good for me because I won't be around. And so this will be better for me. Steve?
Yeah, on your list of hardscape things, are the viewing stations in play at all?
The interpretive panels, yes.
No, I'm thinking of the viewing. One thing I really am kind of interested in is the viewing, looking over the river.
So that's going to be probably some sort of stone dust, but we're going to put some benches and interpretive panels there.
Okay.
Picnic tables too. I forgot about the picnic tables.
Yeah, I was going to submit some pictures from
Oh, good.
Rachel Carson in Maine next time I go up there, but they have some nice viewing stations. They're wooden decks.
That's wonderful. So I'm going to write to Heather and just ask her to create this idea board for us and then just roll them in, and then I'll start having them post. So the first two action items are write to Heather and then also write to the Malcolm X Foundation. And then we'll move on from there. Okay? Everyone?
Yep.
So Steve's pulling together, Steve is pulling together minutes, but Marcia, can I just do a little recap and on email to everyone that no one will send any notes back to me on, that just sort of recaps what we talked about so that people can be thinking about it over the summer?
That's fine.
Okay.
I have,
Okay.
I have a question,
Go
Curly.
ahead, Mary.
Before I joined the select board, when I was on the finance committee, I know we talked about the budget for this project. And
Yeah.
I think originally it was $1.5 million. And then I think you came back to us and said that you had talked to the consultant that you were working with and you thought you could do what you wanted at $1 million.
$1 million, yeah.
So we have $1 million rough budget.
Yeah.
Okay, and you've got 250 so far from CPC.
Yes, and the idea for the 250 is really almost all invasives, which isn't very exciting, but that's what it takes. Invasives and roughing out the path.
Okay.
So that's
So
why,
whose job is it to just see if to keep within the budget? I mean, who's the keeper of that?
that's a good question. I mean, in terms of the steward of that, it's,
Yes.
Is it a combination, Marcia, of you, me, and Liz Rust? How does that work?
Well, I think it's once we go out to bid. I mean, we'll be working with Bill Murray or whomever moving forward, and we'll just make sure that the design, that the professional prepares an estimate of cost. If that estimate is above what we have, then we have to cut back or seek additional funds.
Right.
So we're not at that point yet where we haven't even identified what materials we're thinking about. So
Okay, so we're at the point of collecting ideas, and then that goes to the consultant,
right.
and we
Yeah.
see how much we
Yeah.
can fit into the,
Right.
okay.
So-
Okay,
Mary-
So the
Mary- Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say, at some point, some town person will be assigned to work with the Junction Village Open Space Task Force to manage the project from the financial standpoint. That could be the CPC coordinator, it could be somebody from Natural Resources, it could be somebody from planning. Don't know yet, but it will be moving forward.
okay.
And
Thank you.
Mary, we also wanted to pursue other opportunities to either supplement or, or replace some of the $1 million, or if it goes beyond $1 million, with both fundraising, because we
Yep.
thought there's some opportunity to fundraise for trees, but also grants.
Yep.
I feel
Great.
like there's a lot of opportunity here, both
Yep.
in the historic angle and in the trail making angle of
That's-
for grants that we could plumb.
That's great. That's great. Okay.
Okay, all right, folks. Does anyone have any recommendations specifically for people to find to replace Sue? That's the next on the agenda. Any specific thoughts? I mentioned Joan Ferguson. Anyone else that I can approach? No, okay. All right, we'll be thinking about that. I'll ask Krista. Public comment? I don't see any public comment. Mary, any thoughts?
Well, hold on. I would like to add that, gosh, I'm going to miss all you folks.
Oh.
It's been wonderful to serve with you, and I'm sorry I'm leaving, and what a pleasure it's been.
Oh,
So thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
Sue. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. You're very good at what you do.
You really are, Sue. There's no one like you. We love you. So thank you so much for all you contributed to us.
So every time I'm on a board with you, you leave.
Well, the last time that happened, it was because the planning board only let me serve that long, and then they kicked
Right.
me off.
Right.
She's gonna she cycles through all of the boards. So just stay in one place, Steve, and she'll circle back at some point.
And soon she'll have enough experience that maybe she'll think about running for select board.
Oh, she will. Okay, it's such a pleasure to see you all and to be with you, and it feels like it's been a while, but it was quite a it was a slog there for a while, and then it became easy when people were just so generous, people like Mary Hartman, people who were really generous about supporting our vision, and so thank you for all the work you've already put in, and to you always, Marcia, thank you always for everything you do for us. All right, folks. So at 5:45, I think we're all set. Does anyone have any other business? No. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
And I'll second. Everyone in favor? Yay.
Aye.
Yay. Steve, 5:45, we're calling an end to the meeting. Thanks, everyone. Have a good
Bye.
summer, and I'll be in touch
Thanks.
about late July.